All right, I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. And we'll move on to the monthly report from the community boards. And the first one is Carolyn Potter with Waipuna, Spraden Cashmere. Thank you. Is Deputy Chair Lee Sampson's here as well.
Kia ora tātou. Can I, just before we start, request that we'll try and understand when the urban forest and bush policy will be coming out, because I know the community has had it for quite a long time and our community board hasn't had the opportunity to see it or consider it.
Can I just interrupt you, because we've got Andrew Rutledge who's come specially with an answer to that question for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What I've had done is just, between the question being raised or the subject being raised, we've sent out both a memo and now the email that details the time frame to all community board members and councillors. So I can read it out if you wish, but everybody has it.
You could
just give us the
dates.
We're finalising the draft in June. It's then got to go through the various internal consultations, including mana whenua. There'll be a briefing of council. We're aiming for the end of August on the plan, and the community board chairs could certainly be invited to that briefing. And following that, it'll go through the process of approval for consultation, public consultation. The end game is still to ensure that any funding associated to the plan is aligned to the next long-term plan, which has always been the case.
That's extraordinarily difficult in terms of discussing a very important policy, particularly given Christchurch's dearth of birds and indigenous forest, that extraordinarily late in the day and in fact can't even be considered seriously before the election. That's disappointing.
And what resources have been needed to see if we can bring it forward? Because I totally agree.
All right. Okay. We'll follow up on the memo, but thank you for raising it. Thanks.
Extremely disappointing. Decisions made under delegation, they're listed here. I just want to mention the Graham Dingle Foundation involved at Rowley School. We had quite a discussion about this, which I haven't had for a long time, about the difference between curriculum and curriculum hours at school in terms of the ratepayer, taxpayer argument. We still probably haven't finished that discussion. The first one that we were going to be talking about is...
I can take this one. So,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we had our first face-to-face community board meeting last week, which was great. Great to be back around the table again. And one of the public forums that day was from Simeon Wiley, who spoke about better utilisation of Gainsborough Reserve, which is an underutilised space. And part of our board plan is definitely about better utilisation of council spaces. He's completed a local survey with residents about putting fruit trees in that reserve. So we've asked for staff advice, and we've also connected him with Michael Reynolds, who's obviously doing some great work in that space as well. That was a moment of light last week. So I'll move back over to you, Carol, if we can.
Just to say that we have very few meetings without 2 or 3 or 4 people coming along to speak at community forum. It's honestly the best part of the meeting, and often the best part of the meeting. And people come along from all sorts of walks of life to talk to us about all sorts of issues. It's a great concept, public forum. The board are keen to be kept up to date with the long-awaited renovations to the South Library and the Beckenham Service Centre. Though with the difficulties associated with the stadium, we're not anticipating an early start. It says here the community board has met here since it was completed in 2004, but actually we met there on that site for a long period of time before that. There was a little brick building that was there, and the council of the time was trying to bring all service centres into the centre. And one of those was our service centre, and they proposed to close it and sell the land. and the local community put up a really solid fight on this issue, and the result of which wasn't just that we saved the service centre, it was that we got a brand new building and service centre on that site. And as we have often said, this building is like a human being. It's so much loved by the community. It was the first cafe library in Christchurch, and it has the hearts and minds of all the people that live in our area. So we understand that it's going to take a while. We understand that the building's not going to start immediately by any stretch of the imagination. We do ask that the interim library and a service centre be in the local area. That we really, really cannot see the community enjoying any other alternative.
I think there's probably a bit of a lessons learnt here as well. We got this item pretty cold. I think it was only 10 days before the decision, just in terms of the reinstatement of the library. What we found is locally there's been a lot of interest in the detail. And there's a lot of detail in terms of it's a logical decision that council made last week, but we've definitely got a lot of community interest. A lot of people want to see the detail. A lot of people won't go to a council report and read that 100 pages. So I think there was maybe a bit of a missed opportunity in having some proactive comms around South Library. So we just look forward to making sure we can communicate better in the future. We're looking at a drop-in session as well. So yeah, I think there was an opportunity. Maybe that's a fact sheet other than just a newsline article that has a few salient points. So maybe a 2-page fact sheet, so we can just take the community on that journey a little bit more. So, because it is an important decision for our community. So thank you, Caroline.
Your two next.
Okay, sorry, back to me. Again, good utilisation of council spaces. We've got a couple of local markets in our area. We recently had La Liga at Rowley Community Centre on the 24th of May. That's a great occasion where we have Pacifica and Maori Kai and family activities. And we've got the regular event in terms of the South Christchurch Farmers Market, which is held every Sunday morning. I do want to acknowledge staff, certainly Angus Smith, and I think Bruce, just in terms of trying to formalise that arrangement. So I know a lot of work has been happening in the background, but there has been some frustrations that have boiled over recently. So it's a really important of our board plan that we do activate spaces. It's part of it is part of our board plan. So we look forward to a good outcome in terms of the longevity of a South Christchurch Farmers Market in that space. So thank you.
And finally, the Centennial Hall, the star of the film Pecking Order, has now gone. The site's been cleared. The fences are pulled down. It's a surprisingly small space. It probably wouldn't fit 2 of the old school quarter-acre houses. And the boulder has been, with the plaque on it, it's been relocated to Pioneer Stadium, and the honours board is at the Beckenham Service Centre. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
Oh, I bought the Eddington newsletter, so I hope to pass it round.
Melanie.
Thank you.
Did you want to mention we had a wonderful sound system, I thought, and we were also filmed and it was live on YouTube from our boardroom, which was fantastic.
But I didn't mention that, and it wasn't on our agenda, but we had our first meeting, as Lee said. It was almost social, wasn't it? We had quite a few people from the community. It was good to see each other again, and the sound system, contrary to our expectations because of our experiences in the past, this is, I think, the 3rd or 4th sound system since I've been there, went fantastically. Thanks very much to the staff for that. So I should have mentioned it before.
Good.
Anyone else? All right. Look, thank you very much for your presentation this morning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And the next one, I think, have we got Jason Middlemas here? Oh, hi, Jason. Didn't see you behind your mask. From the Waimairi, Pendleton Waimairi Harewood Community Board.
Good morning, everybody. This is just a summary of some of the decisions made under delegation since we were last in. discretionary response fund applications, youth development fund, submissions committee. It's relatively standard stuff, which is good to see. Miriam, if you could please move on to the next slide. You may recall us mentioning last year that the University of Canterbury Athletics Club were moving from Westburn School to Fendalton Park. The club came and spoke to the board at our last meeting to share with us how successful their season had been at this new location. And it's also great to hear that the general public are making good use of the running track on the park as well. There's been a lot of kids and a lot of families going down there using that space. The club is now working with the parks team to look at the installation of permanent structures for their long jump, high jump and throwing circles, so they can have a little bit better infrastructure there, which hopefully will continue to see them prosper and do really well, because they were out of town and it's good for them to be a bit closer to where most of their members live. We would like to take this opportunity to highlight the great work of one of our community groups, Aspire Canterbury, formerly known as the Disabled Persons Centre. Although they work all over the city, they're based in Bishopdale, and our local community development advisor provides them with support and advice on a regular basis when they need it. Their community directory provides a wealth of information about services available to people with disabilities. This directory is hugely popular, and our local community governance team helped them recently to be able to print more copies. Onto some community issues. So just to finish today, we want to highlight an issue that's been around for some time but appears to be getting worse from what residents in our area and here would have been saying. We've received complaints from them about burnout activities taking place on Wilkinson's Road next to the Harewood Crematorium. The activity tends to take place following a funeral and is often being done as a bit of a memorial to the person who they've just farewelled. We've informed our local community police who are well aware of it, and hope that we can work with them, the crematorium, and our transport team to look at ways of sensitively addressing this issue. It's a bit of a challenging one, but hopefully we can come up with something that will be suitable. Thank you very much. That's us.
Thank you. Any questions? Sam?
Well, firstly, Jace, welcome for your first time at the council. You've done a great job.
Thank you.
Do we have any thoughts around how, and maybe it's some advice we could get from the transport team around the burnout issue? Because I imagine it's not just one in our local community. It'll be happening right across the city. So, is that an action that potentially Lynette could come back to us on? That last slide, you would have seen.
I'll pick it up with the officer.
Yeah. Okay, the chief executive will pick it up.
Yeah, maybe also something that I'm sure it's probably an issue that's been had around other parts of town, and maybe someone's come up with some solutions that may work. Yeah. We could leverage off, but yeah, it would be really good if there is some way we can try and
getting
sort
nods
it out.
from governance staff in the back of the room, so I suspect it has been raised in other areas as well.
Ultimately, we'll discussion with the police.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, Aaron.
Yeah, I did speak with the manager of the crematorium yesterday at quite some length over it, because obviously local residents are upset, and she manages Linwood as well. And this is quite a unique problem, just so everyone knows, to the Harewood Crematorium, because Wilkinson's Road feels like a country road. So it's more acceptable to do a burnout or lay a patch on a country road than you don't see it happen on Linwood Ave outside their crematorium. The odd time Keeley's Road, you don't get it Wairiki Road.
You're doing Keeley's.
Okay, well, the manager was wrong
They're
there.
back streets. No, they're back streets, not directly fronting onto the crematorium. It's further back that they do it, and they do it around the Bromley Community Centre. Yanni's been raising it for a long time, but this is a serious issue, and I know that Tim's raised it in his patch before, so it is an issue. But you're right, it looks like rural road, and it doesn't look like city road. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. The next one is the Waipuna Halswell-Hornby-Riccarton Community Board, and we've got Mike Moore via Zoom. He's also going to take a few extra minutes on top of his presentation to speak to the Halswell Junction Road. Is he there? He's on Zoom?
Yep.
Yeah. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes. So we'll start with your
That's wonderful.
presentation.
Start with our presentation. Yes, so thanks very much for the opportunity. I'm going to keep it brief as I possibly can. Decisions made under delegation is pretty straightforward. Really pleased with the Halswell Domain Miniature Railway new lease and the Halswell Quarry landscape plan for the Songpad U Garden. Yep, so that's all good. And the next slide, please. And yes, we're grateful for the work that Councillor Galloway does on this with the Hiratini Youth Council and the work that they're doing in Westlake Reserve. And that's very, very helpful. Thank you. Next slide. This is an exciting one as well. The Anzac mural at the Hornby Primary School, at the Hornby Moor Memorial. So that's and the school worked with partnership with the residents group and to facilitate this, and it was enjoyed by many on Anzac Day. And in fact, every day when people are coming and going to the school there, and the memorials there with that mural is really, really exciting. Next slide, please. Yes, the Harvard Lounge. That's, of course, in Wigram for the old Wigram Air Base site. So for those who don't know, so that's been works just been completed on that. So well done. Next slide, please. Traffic concerns in Blakeney Street. Well, it's not only Blakeney Street. There's other streets in our area as well that we're concerned about. Branston Street and Awatea, Gardens area. So there's a lot of requests coming to slow down and have safe streets. So that's the work that we're doing, and staff are working on that now to come back to the board with some outcomes. So we'll just watch this space. Next one, please. Oh, that's it. Any questions before I launch into the Halswell Junction Road extension? Any questions on that?
Was that your phone?
Yes, it is.
It was just me ringing.
Humble apologies.
To hurry up.
Humble apologies.
No,
I'll take the finally.
Are there any questions for Mike? Thank you. No, we'll move on to the Halswell Junction Road.
Yes, thanks very much for everybody that's involved in bringing that to the council today. It's something that's been a bit of a bone of contention, really, for a while. The consultation on this link started in 2017, and it was planned for completion by 2019. But there has been some hold-ups through that process. And it's called the Halswell Junction Road extension, but it's really the missing link more than an extension, as you can see. So it's the missing link, and there's very, very strong support within the community. There's a lot of frustration in the community for the time it's taken, but there's a lot of support for what's going to the council today. So and of course we're very much in favour of 4.1 in that report, which is the preferred option. And we just really, really want to stress that, to keep, carbon emissions and stuff like that. There's a lot of waste and frustration. If we can get that road opened up, that little missing link, and get that flowing freely now, it's going to be a big help to everybody in the area. So please, I'm begging that you put that funding in to get this work completed as soon as possible. So thanks very much. I know you've got a busy day, but I'm happy to answer any questions on that as well.
Does anyone have any questions for Mike on that? Yanni and Jimmy?
Mike, thanks for the...
We've got 8 seconds.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering what the consequence would be if we didn't do it. Like, what impact would it have on the community if we didn't do this?
A lot, because there's heavy vehicles going through that little area of Halswell Junction Road now, and that's going to be a cul-de-sac. So, and there's a lot of safety issues at the corner, at the intersection of Halswell Junction Road, the railway line, and Waterloo Road. It's a bit of a nightmare. So there's safety issues there as well, Yanni. So we'd be very, very frustrated.
And I will take Jimmy. Sorry, quick question.
Mike, just quickly ask one question, but back to 6 years ago. You're aware the former manager of the Waterloo Business Park, they would like to contribute 1 million. Do you know the
correct?
But what is update status? My understanding, you have engaged with them as well. They also very concerned this infrastructure and a greater benefit to them, and also vitalize the economy of the Christchurch and
yes,
Canterbury.
Jimmy. Yeah, I can answer that question. Yes, that money was made available, $1 million from the Waterloo Business Park. But what's happened now is the Waterloo Business Park is in two sort of sections now. So that company that was doing that and offered that money withdrew that because of lack of action from the staff at that time and and Kiwi Rail.
It was from Kiwi Rail, Mike. I mean, look, I'm not going to allow questions around hearsay because there's a lot of background to this issue.
Yes, there is.
And the chief executive and I have got a meeting with the chair and the chief executive of Kiwi Rail coming up. Yeah, and this is one of the items on the agenda. So
I note that. So thanks very much for that, Leanne.
Okay.
It's much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. But we'll address some of the broader issues when we get to the item on the paper, which I.
No, I appreciate you bringing that. Appreciate you bringing that forward too, Leanne. Thank you.
Well, I may not now. I might just take a little bit of. I might leave it to after the morning tea break, but it depends how long the next one takes. Okay, look, thanks very much, Mike. Much appreciated. And
you're welcome.
Move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Waipuna Linwood Central Heathcote Community Board with the Chair Alexandra Davids and Arahanui Grace, Community Governance Manager. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you for having us this morning. We'll kick straight into our report. So this month we have had 2 Youth Development Fund payments, and they have gone to Ava Henderson, and that was for the Junior World Surfing Championships, and also Willow Cook, and that was for the 2022 New Zealand Lead Climbing National Championships. On to our wastewater treatment plant. Obviously, this is something that the board has had a briefing on now, along with Burwood Coastal, so we thank Council for doing that. We are close to having our community consultation group set up, and we hope this will be up and running by the end of next week at the latest. As we all know, the health effects are something that I think we've got a wee picture of the organics processing plant there as well, so excuse that, but you know what we're talking about. So as we all know, the health effects are something that has been spoken about widely by the community, and that's something that the community is still feeling there's not enough action being had about. It has been said that it's not just an environmental crisis, it's potentially a health crisis, as we don't know the long-term effects from the gases that are in our environment. And obviously the effects on mental and emotional well-being are something that we need to be taking really seriously for this community. And also obviously the physical effects of breathing in the gases is something that people would really like data around, and they would like to know what data is being collected, so we can find out what the effects may be and actually look at the concerns that are being dealt with within the community. We are looking at a briefing with the CDHB in the near future, which we're really thankful for. And with that community group that we are setting up, we will be inviting them to any briefings that we do have in the future. So they are fully informed first and foremost, so they can also pass that information on to their communities, but ask relevant questions to CDHB or anybody else that we may be meeting with, so they can get that information and pass on their concerns.
The presentation is an old one, so you're just going to have to talk to these. I'll go back to the front page.
Oh, okay, cool. This is actually an old presentation apparently, so we're just going to do some jumping. I'm going to speak to the Sumner Tennis Club now. So the Sumner Tennis Club came to us with a proposal for unfenced tennis courts and other recreational activities that they have proposed they will pay for the laying of the outdoor courts. They have a huge waiting list for the use of the tennis club, so having these extra courts would be really beneficial. They would also like to encompass gardens and fruit trees, which other groups have proposed to the board in the past would be really beneficial for that community. The clubs would be looking at the courts being able to be used by everybody, including people that are coming in from outside of town for day trips to visits with Sumner. And as you'll be aware, the paddling pool is right down the street, where we get a lot of use from people coming in from all over the city. The board would like to know what the arrangements are going to be for permanent activity on red zone land, as currently all arrangements are transitional. So we're just kind of looking for an update on permanent fixtures on red zone land in the Port Hills area. Yeah. And then our next picture would have been the light cross on the top of Cave Rock. So at our last meeting, we had a public forum from Jamie Dawson, specifically related to the Christian symbolism of the lights on Cave Rock, and also that the lights are on all of the time. The board have sought information as to the historic use and configuration of the lights, and we are now looking into the ability to perhaps change the configuration and the duration that they are on. We have also requested that they be off for the period of Matariki, which is coming up, just to honour the essence of Matariki. And then our last slide would have been a bunch of pictures from Phillipstown, and specifically the area between Wilson's Road and Ferry Road. So last night the board met on site at the corner of Olivia's Road and Ferry Road with members of the community in Phillipstown. There's a plan in place for work on pedestrian safety, with consultation not due till the beginning of next year. When meeting on site with staff in the community, the full impacts of safety concerns were able to be seen and discussed as we walked the stretch of the road up to Wilson's Road. With the works proposed currently, there is no scope to address these safety concerns properly. Just a few examples of some of the issues that we're seeing on that stretch of road. We have parking on the sidewalk, and this sometimes leads to parking over cycleways as well. We've got cracked and broken gutters and footpaths. We have a road layout that enables dangerous driving and at times really bizarre driving behaviour from motorists because of it. With all this being said, there have been multiple crashes and people actually hit along the stretch. People trip up. It's dangerous for parents with prams and children to access, and also for people in wheelchairs and mobility scooters. So I'd like to note that the maintenance issues in the area are not looked at thoroughly either, and there really needs to be a program put in place for this area. The public garden easements are overgrown and the whole area is dilapidated. Residents are continually having to do cleanups themselves in the area due to the lack of attention and maintenance. I believe this will be looked at through the annual plan process, but I wanted to bring it to you today to fully express the safety issues the community are having to deal with on a daily basis, and they're really feeling frustrated and feeling like they're not being listened to. So just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention today.
Yeah, no, look, thank you very much for your presentation. You've come to the end of the time that's been allocated, but we appreciate that, and it's always difficult when your slides not the right ones. Try and stand up at an international conference with the wrong set of slides.
That wouldn't be fun.
I did once. Yeah, it's not easy, but so thank you very much for your presentation. But will you send the correct slides through so that we can have a look at those?
Sure thing, maybe. We'll send through a bunch.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We'll move on to Waipapa Papanui Innes Community Board. Emma Norrish and Simon Britton, I think, are here today. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou, thank you for having us along to present to you today. We're just going to give you a quick rundown on our May meeting and then highlight a few happenings in our board area. So these are decisions made under delegations. I'm not going to run through all of them, so if we go to the next slide. There's a couple of things I did want to point out on here. The Dudley Street Starling issue, which you'll remember we brought to you a while back. We have had some success there in that the area has been added to the council's 2-weekly scrubbing round during the roosting season, which is great, but unfortunately the issue as to who is responsible for the birds remains unresolved. And then the other one I just wanted to mention on there is the Spring Grove pedestrian safety. Myself and councillors Kewen and Major attended the residents' meeting, which was arranged by the local MP, Matt Ducey. And I believe that has led to some discussions in your annual plan deliberations around bringing forward funding for the Redcliffe Road footpath project. We had some really disgruntled residents there when they heard that Kiwi Rail was not planning to have the crossing done until 2026, and that was the same timeline for the Redcliffe Road footpath. So those residents are feeling very isolated at the moment. We'll move on.
Our boards continue to hold community open forums, which was a new initiative for this year. Unfortunately, until now, they have all had to be online because of the health environment. We'll have our first opportunity for a face-to-face forum this Friday and then subsequently with our board meetings. Papanui Youth Development Trust hosted a number of young people who spoke to us at a recent forum. It was really great to hear from all those young people, so thanks to the Trust and to those young people for speaking to us and bringing some issues to our attention and highlighting some positive things that they're involved with. The PYDT also shared with us a video highlighting how Dusk Till Dawn went last year, which is an initiative run every second year in our community for young people at 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. All-night event. We had 150 young people involved in that last year. It's mainly youth organised with support from our community recreation advisor and other staff at council as well. And it was really great to see that video, which really shared sort of reflections and highlights from last year as young people that organise are then thinking towards the next event next year as well. We have been in communication with retailers in our area. It's been brought to our attention some frustrations around a number of abandoned shopping trolleys in the area. So there's some dialogue going on with some of our local retailers around that, and our governance team is also talking to council policy staff about other potential solutions or options to help manage that. And the other item on there, we also have had raised with us by our local community organisations the emotional and psychological strain as well as the financial strain involved in supporting their own staff and volunteers through a very difficult time in the last couple of years. We have raised that with our local MPs. We've had a meeting with Matt Ducey, and we have a meeting coming up with Duncan Webb and Sarah Pallett as well to discuss the intersection there between support from local government but also central government. And you've had at least one helpful initiative that looks like it's emerging from the meeting with Matt, so we might hear more about that in the future once that's locked in.
At the end of April, we were able to open the upgraded St Albans skate park. This project had been in the works since about 2014, so it was great to finally get it finished and open for the community to use. It's proved very popular with young people in the area since its opening, because it now provides elements for beginner skaters as well as more advanced skaters. And there's a real sense of ownership in the community as well, due to a really good consultation process that involved a lot of young people in the area. They visited local schools and got a lot of feedback, so that's great to get that open.
The Shirley Village project, this is place-based community-led development in the Shirley area. We've discussed in previous meetings some of the positive things that are happening in the MacFarlane Park area in particular, and some photos there from recent activities, including painting of fences and more murals going up in that park. Steve, who's running that project, has a vision for the park to be an art park, essentially, with murals all along it, and that's progressing really well. The project also worked with council park staff recently to run a community working bee at the basketball court there, which has involved repainting, a new backboard and a big tidy up and clean up of that whole area.
And then finally, we had a really successful planting day at Papanui Bush just a couple of weeks ago. Started off as a very frosty morning, but turned into a great day for planting. We had students from Papanui High School. They came over and helped out as they regularly do. And then we also had students from Bishopdale School. There was also a number of community volunteers as well as the regular Papanui Rotary volunteers. And we also had the One News crew come along, and they did an item on it which aired a couple of days ago, I think it was, and so that was fantastic to see. And I know I've said this before, but this is an amazing example of community collaboration, which will bring huge benefits to the local area for generations to come. And our board's really proud to be able to be part of it. And that's us for today.
Thank you very much. I've just consulted with Gus, and he and I both saw the TV1 item, and it was great to see the community coming together around such a significant piece of regeneration. So great, well done. No, I do have to move on because of the time constraints. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take it offline. Thank you. I think you're on that community board. Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, we've got the full list for Kiwi Rail. It's okay. Next one is Te Pātika o Wākai Hotu Banks Peninsula Community Board. We've got Tori Peden. You alone, Tori? Penelope Goldstone as well, but yeah, okay. Thank you.
Right. Decisions made under delegation. The board made a Part A recommendation that council approves the proposed speed limit changes for the range of council roads which link onto the state highway network. The board is looking forward to seeing safer speed limits introduced on these roads across our communities. The board also endorsed previous community board's resolution to approve the future use of U Cottage as a residential dwelling. It will be leased out once repaired. A resource consent will be required to meet residential tenancy standards, and the board is looking forward to seeing the cottage made available for tenancy. The board was pleased to approve a grant of $2,000 to the Wainui Residents Association towards picnic tables, which will provide seating along Wainui foreshore for residents and visitors, improving amenity and reducing congestion. The Littleton Seafarers Centre Charitable Trust was a recipient of $10,000 grant from the Board for Wages for Welfare Support Workers. The Trust applied for this funding in response to the closure of our maritime borders due to COVID-19, which prevented seafarers arriving in Littleton from leaving the vessel. They could not visit the Seafarer Centre, do their personal shopping, nor access Wi-Fi to contact home. With this grant, the Trust was able to employ a seafarer support worker to visit ships and offer support to sailors. The support worker supplied vessels with portable Wi-Fi for crews to contact home and did over $100,000 of personal shopping for sailors quarantined in Littleton. The crews were extremely appreciative of the support received, which made their time here a little bit easier to endure. Littleton Community House offers a range of services to our Littleton Harbour residents, including the community shopping shuttle, recreational activities, community meals, seniors fitness classes, and much more. The board was pleased to provide funding to the trust so that it could make modifications to its van to improve accessibility for its patrons. The trust has added handrails on both sides of the doorway, as well as above the door. It has also been added, also added an additional step that lowers, which helps reduce stress on joints and making entering and exiting much easier, especially on our Littleton roads. The trust provides a lot of valuable services to the community it serves, and these modifications have made a big difference to residents that use the van. And lastly, as you know, the Eastern Bays experienced a significant weather event in December 2021, which resulted in extensive flooding, slips and widespread damage to roads and private property. The recovery efforts have been challenging and are ongoing, and a lot of work has been done to achieve some of the recent milestones, such as reopening Goffs Road. As we celebrate these milestones, we're also looking back at what we could have done better. As part of this process, there was a community debrief meeting held on May 16th, which was attended by 23 residents, 4 elected members, 12 staff. We're there to share lessons learned, receive feedback and answer questions. All of the residents' feedback will be considered before finalising the corrective actions report. Importantly, a commitment was made to activate a coordinated response earlier in the future, to build stronger community networks, and to make connections with key stakeholders and influencers for community meetings to discuss communication infrastructure in the southeastern bays. While there is much work ahead of us, we feel that we're moving in the right direction and will be better able to support our communities in their time of need when another adverse weather event occurs. So that's us in a nutshell in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, because I think, just do you want to go back to the previous slide? I just think that, you know, that's kind of the lesson learned, that, you know, all of the technical support and everything being done is only part of the total package, and communication.
It's a big thing, yeah.
One, yeah.
Yep. No, and that has come through from when the event happened to now, how we can do that better next time.
And I think, I mean, I'm assuming that there's kind of a lessons learned approach to this being adopted. You know, a review of what happened, and so that we can get some documented improvements for the future. Phil?
Thanks, Tori. How did you get on with the speed from Little River to Akarai Little River?
So we were incredibly grateful to have NZTA as part of that call that we had at the board meeting the other week. They are looking at other options, so perhaps putting double yellow lines through that Cooptown area to stop overtaking in dangerous situations. So that is, you know, something to look forward. But they're also going to continue looking at the speed of the road. So when the speed limit comes down in the surrounding areas, what is the operational speed in the road? So they're not looking at dropping it immediately, but we can still continue with that conversation, and so they're not shutting the door completely. They did say that that it just fits with the analysis that to keep it at that 80 kilometre speed, and we sort of disagreed with that, but we've asked for continued conversations regarding
because it is only about 1.5 kilometres.
Not even a kilometre.
Not even a kilometre, yeah. It costs more to put the yellow lines on it would to change the sign, I'd suggest.
The big double signs in the area. So yeah, it is frustrating. We are frustrated, and the surrounding neighbours are frustrated, but they are still open to the conversation. So that's the main thing for us.
Thank you very much, Tori, for your presentation. It's much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the last community board is Waitai Coastal Burwood Community Board, Kelly Barber. And we've got Chris Turner-Bullock as well, Community Governance Manager.
Right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Leanne. Good morning, City Councillors. Good morning, Gus.
Hello.
Welcome. So I'm the chair of the Waipuna Coastal Burwood Community Board, which is over in New Brighton and Burwood, very beautiful part of the city. I'd just like to compliment you on your fine jacket there.
Thanks.
It's looking pretty sharp. You've been to Brighton, no doubt?
Yeah.
Yeah, good man. Did Sam McDonald help you choose your jacket there?
You don't want one as big as mine.
Definitely.
One of you does better
Anyway, so I just thought these guys have heard a lot of this before, so I thought I'd direct, a bit of this to you. I thought that you might enjoy it. So there's so many positive things going on in our area, in the Burwood and Coastal wards. In fact, you've been to the hot pools, Gus, at some stage, I would imagine?
Yes.
Yeah, very inexpensive. It's about $14 regular, $15 during peak times. But if you were to go to Hamner, it would cost you about $35 for your mum or dad to go there. So our hot pools out in Brighton are very reasonably priced. Great place to visit. And maybe we should think about that little differential when we build our fantastic stadium here in Christchurch. Maybe our northern cousins might like to contribute a bit more. Yeah. Anyway, moving right along. So this is our board, Gus. You might notice a picture up there. See, I'm in the middle with the white shirt. I'm the tallest. Just like to make that point to you. Sorry? Yeah, it is the box. Anyway, so moving right along, I think we'll move on to the serious matters at hand. So Gus, we make a number of decisions out at our community board. One of the things that we do is award money to various groups. So our discretionary response fund, we use that to support local groups in our area. One is the Burwood East Residents Association. So there's a bunch of them out there, and we give them a bit of money towards their room hire so that they can conduct their business in the interests of the community. The second point there, we appointed Joe Zervos, who's one of our very active members from the New Brighton community, to the Whakaraupo Littleton Harbour Coastal Panel, which she was excited to participate in. And we also wrote a letter of thanks to the council staff and the New Zealand Police, because you probably heard a little bit about the red zone occupation, where some people were living in the red zone for a wee while out in Burwood area. Did you hear that?
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah, so an interesting group of roosters. But anyway, the police and the council handled that really well, so we wanted to basically send a message that we appreciated the work that they did. Okay, next slide, please, Christopher. Now, if you'd have visited New Brighton, the foreshore down by the beach at some stage in the last few years, you might have seen the Shell Chapel, which is a little tiny sort of hut/sculpture. It was moved to make way for those brilliant pools, and so it's going to be refurbished and put back sometime this month. Just a wonderful addition to the beautiful foreshore there down in New Brighton. Right, moving on. So, Gus, you probably haven't heard too much about this, but the Canterbury Earthquake Appeal Trust, which was set up after the earthquakes to fund some of the things that I guess had come down in the earthquake, and in our area in particular, and bordering on our area, were a couple of beautiful bridges that no longer existed. So what happened was the Canterbury Earthquake Appeal Trust spent $13.7 million on these restoration of these bridges, which are good for connecting communities. One of the bridges was very twisted. I don't know whether you ever saw that across the Avon, but they replaced it with a fantastic bridge called the Medway Bridge, which is in those pictures up there. And the picture to the right shows the approaches to the bridge. Nice wooden sort of floor there. Anyway, we're very pleased with it. And we want to say particular thanks to Courtney Reid, who organised all the openings. It seemed to be every other week we were having an opening, but they're all done now. So people are using the bridge, even the graffiti artists, but we seem to have cleaned that up. But they're a fantastic addition to our community. So moving on to the next slide, this is the Snell Bridge, which was opened about a week and a half ago. The feature of this bridge is the beautiful wooden arches. I talked to the guys who installed them. I can't remember the name of the company, but they're a real feature. Didn't cost too much to add those, but when you look at the structure of the bridge, it's pretty solid, and we're really pleased to have that in the Burwood Darlington area. So, I don't know whether you can smell this from where you live, Gus. Do you ever get a whiff of the treatment plant?
No.
Probably not. Yeah, no, neither do I. But the good people of New Brighton do from time to time. So the great thing about the council's response is that the communication level has been very high and improving all the time. We learn from our mistakes, and so we. When I say we, a number of community boards, Waipuna Coastal Burwood, which is the one I'm part of, and Waikura Linwood Central Heathcote, got together with council staff and were briefed on the planned actions. There were lots of staff there. The communication was excellent. It was live streamed so that the public could be part of it, which is a really important part of what we do. So I do think that is all we have today. So thanks for listening, and any questions?
You've directed the entire presentation at my assistant, so he has a question for you.
Okay, fire away.
So when you were building the bridges, when it came up to high tide, how did you manage?
You might like to refer that question to Councillor Major, who's actually more involved in construction than I am. You know.
No, I think that I mean, it is a worthwhile question for the public, because the issue is what considerations were taken into account in building a bridge and what is a more challenging environment since the earthquakes. And I just showed him the picture of the twisted bridge, which is possibly what helped or prompted the question. So
I can answer that, though.
The engineers designed all of the
They had the tall crew
to ensure that it would withstand the different tidal pressures that would be coming through the river. So it was all taken into account in designing the bridge.
Yeah, well, as a long-time kayaker up that stretch of river, I can tell you that those bridges are well above the high tide mark. The old bridge, that twisted one, I used to just about knock my head on when I was going through with my paddle. So they're much, much higher now. No danger of that.
Is that good?
Yep.
You
happy with that? All right.
Okay.
We'll
Look, thank you very much, Kelly. That brings us to the end of the community board presentations. Thank you. Would someone like to move that we accept those? Pauline, seconded by Melanie. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That is carried. We'll move on to 27 Hunters Road and 42 Farrow Ave. And we've got